We're known by our friends as the savers, and yet we made a sudden change in the past year, and we went against all traditional advice when we stopped saving for retirement. We didn't slow down or decrease our savings rate, we stopped altogether. Zero. Zilch. Zilch is another word for zero, right? We didn't win the lottery or become financially independent, and no, we didn't give up on our retirement plans. Instead, we made an intentional change with how we're living our lives that resulted in us not making a single contribution to our retirement accounts. In this video, we're going to explain why we made this change, what enabled us to do it, and why we're confident our future selves won't regret this decision. And most importantly, I'm going to explain how this might inspire you to live your life a little bit differently. Let's get into it. To explain why we made this change, let me first explain where we came from. 5 years ago, we were both working full-time. While I enjoyed my job, we were both busy, tired, and had very little time to spend the way that we wanted. We didn't know it at the time, but we were spending nearly $20,000 for convenience. Takeout food multiple times a week, buying stuff for that little momentary hit of dopamine, and paying for convenience wherever we could find it. We spent so much time in front of the TV because we felt so tired, both mentally and physically. We were successful by so many standards, and yet we weren't fully happy, and we didn't have enough time to do anything else. Life became monotonous, boring, and toxic in so many ways. And through it all, we felt the scarcity of time. By trading 40, 50, sometimes even 60 plus hours a week to earn a high income, we made a ton of financial progress. And yet we didn't have a life. Life was a grind, and it began to all blur together. Fast forward 5 years from now, we are flipping the script. We are valuing our time and prioritizing unique experiences. Our goal wasn't to stop investing, it was actually a result of us prioritizing our time and location independence over money. In February of this year, I left my job. There are a number of reasons why I left, but ultimately it came down to wanting something different. I wanted something more adventurous and more exciting to me. And while our business covers most of our expenses, it's still growing. And so the surplus income that we had from my day job disappeared overnight, and the resulting contributions to our investment disappeared literally overnight. We haven't made a single retirement contribution since I left my job in February. But this wasn't a surprise to us. We prepared for this both mentally and financially. So let's talk about what enabled us to make this intentional change. In personal finance, there's a concept called financial independence. Basically, it's the idea that you've saved and invested enough that you no longer have to earn any active income. It's the point at which your investments can cover your everyday expenses. Effectively, it means that work becomes optional. It's often defined as 25 times your annual expenses, but that's just one of many definitions. We were on track to hit this milestone in our early 40s. But we haven't actually reached this milestone. We actually have to clarify this with people all the time. People who follow our blog or this YouTube channel often assume that we have reached financial independence. And I get why people would assume that we have reached this milestone. In the past year, we've traveled almost 6 months in our camper van, traveling all over the United States. Neither of us have a traditional job, and we've enjoyed a lot of freedom. And yet, because we've prioritized saving and investing for retirement for so long, we've made tremendous progress on our financial journey. Here's the thing that actually allows us to make this change. It's the wealth that we've already accumulated that will continue to work in the background that will allow us to cover our living expenses in traditional retirement. and it gives us the flexibility to slow down and prioritize our time. Those of us in the personal finance space refer to this milestone as Coast Financial Independence, or Coast FI for short. Basically, it's the point at which you have enough or sufficient investments that will grow over time to provide what you need in retirement without making another contribution. So instead of work being optional, as in the case of financial independence, savings or investing becomes optional for Coast FI. Because we can reasonably expect the stock market to grow over the long term, we can reasonably expect our current investments to grow to a point that they will cover our traditional retirement. The name Coast Financial Independence, or Coast FI, comes from the idea of coasting to financial independence. It's the idea of putting in a lot of work up front on the wealth accumulation front so that you can then let compound interest do all the work for you so that you can coast to financial independence. Some like to use the metaphor of biking up a hill and then coasting down the other side to explain Coast Financial Independence. Essentially, you are putting a lot of time and effort and work up front to get to the top of the hill that then allows you to switch gears and enter a new season of life, allowing you to coast. Getting to the top of the hill doesn't mean you've reached financial independence and you don't need to earn any more active income or that you can retire into the sunset. It just means that you've reached a point where you can change the way you live your life and you can change the pace in which you're pursuing your financial goals. Reaching this milestone meant so much to us. What's the best way for me to explain this? As people who are very conscious of our financial progress, reaching Coast Financial Independence took a lot of pressure off. A lot of weight and stress and pressure to earn more, or to save more, or to move more quickly. Now, being Coast FI, we no longer feel the need to work full-time or earn more. And we only have to focus on covering our short and mid-term expenses. We know that our future expenses in traditional retirement will be covered thanks to our current investments and the expected growth. As I mentioned, we haven't made a single retirement contribution since I left my day job almost 9 months ago at the time of recording this video. Stopping saving for retirement at 36 goes against all traditional advice. And that's why it's so important for us to share our story. Because personal finance is personal. Not everyone is going to follow that same trajectory or same path as you're working towards retirement goals. It's okay to do things a little bit differently. And that doesn't mean you have to throw all caution to the wind and quit your job without any savings and do something extremely risky. Our path is one of front-loading our retirement savings so that we can then enter a new season of life of slowing down, prioritizing time, and pursuing travel and other interests that we have. So to be clear, this doesn't mean that we won't contribute any more money to our long-term investments. But right now, we are prioritizing our time and building a life that we truly enjoy. It's our goal to design a life that we never want to retire from. And as a result, it means we're entering a new season where we have lower income and we're not prioritizing savings. Have you stopped to ask yourself what your life could look like if you didn't need to save for retirement? What would you do with more time or energy? Everyone's dream is going to be a little bit different. Just because we enjoy entrepreneurship and van life doesn't mean that that has to be your dream. But there are ways that you can make your life a little bit better by deprioritizing savings for retirement. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've been saving 25% of your income towards retirement each year, and you finally reach Coast Financial Independence, meaning that savings becomes optional. Now, for someone who's saving 25% of their income towards retirement, it might be natural to keep chugging away and grinding it out and saving 25% of your income. But instead, ask yourself this question. How would you structure your life if you didn't need to earn as much money? Sometimes we feel so much pressure to never go backwards and never earn less than we have in prior years. I know I've felt this way, and I know others have shared the same thing. When you get those promotions or pay increases, it kind of adds to the pressure of future employment. thinking to yourself, I could never work for less than I'm currently making. But in reality, building wealth gives you the option and the flexibility to earn less and to design a life that's better for you, that doesn't have as much pressure to earn as much money as possible. If you didn't need to earn as much, would you look for a new job? Perhaps you've always wanted to pursue a new profession, but you never wanted to go backwards on that pay scale. Or perhaps you love your job, but are tired of putting in 50+ hour weeks. Reducing your hours by 25% could give you enough time to get everything done and pursue some hobbies and relax. Even a 20% reduction could give you back 1 day per week. What could you do with 1 extra day per week? These are just 2 of many options, and it really starts with you pausing to understand what those options are and what are your interests. What do you want to do and what do you value most? If you aren't sure if you've reached Coast Financial Independence, I'll drop a link to our free CoastFi calculator in the description below. Thousands of people have already downloaded this calculator, and so many of them have emailed us saying that it has changed their lives. Simply understanding where they were in their financial journey and the empowerment that comes with understanding the wealth that you've already built for yourself is incredible. So download the calculator, run the numbers, and if you find that you're close to Coast Financial Independence or you've already reached it, go back and ask yourself that question. What would you do differently if you didn't need to earn as much money? As strange as it sounds, sometimes it's easier to grind it out and continue saving as much money as possible and avoiding the questions of how to make your life better. But just because it's easier doesn't mean it's the best way.